I see her every morning on my way to work. Same spot, same blue sleeping bag, same cardboard sign with words so faded I can't read them anymore. Corner of Clark and Washington, right where the red line emerges from, underground into daylight. She sits with her back against the concrete wall, head down, hood pulled up, invisible to the thousand people who pass her every day. I used to be one of them, the ones who look away, the ones who tell themselves it's not their problem. Someone else will help. She probably just wants drug money anyway. I'd hurry past with my coffee and my briefcase and my noise canceling headphones, insulating myself from the reality that people live like this 30 feet from where I catch my train. But this morning was different. This morning, the wind caught her hood and pulled it back, and I saw her face. 20 years disappeared in an instant. The expensive suit, the coffee that cost more than her cardboard sign would earn in a day, the life I'd built, all of it dissolved. And I was 18 again, sitting in the back of my beat up Honda Civic, my hand in hers, promising forever to a girl with green eyes and a laugh that sounded like summer. Annie Sullivan. My first love. My only love, if I'm being honest, even though I'm married to someone else now. The girl who vanished 20 years ago without explanation, without goodbye, without a trace. She was sitting on Clark and Washington with dirt on her face and her whole life in a garbage bag. And she didn't even know I'd recognized her. I'm David Monroe. I'm 38 years old. I'm a senior investment banker at Morrison. And Clark, with a downtown penthouse, a Tesla, and a wife who thinks I'm at the office 70 hours a week. I make more money in a month than most people see in a year, and the love of my life is homeless. I didn't approach her that first morning. I stood there on the platform like I'd been struck by lightning, staring at her through the crowd while my train came and went. People pushed past me. Someone said, "Excuse you," with that particular Chicago bite. I didn't move. Annie's head was down again, hood back up, invisible. I'd looked for her once, right after she disappeared senior year, called her house 100 times, disconnected number, drove past, sold, new family, asked her friends. They didn't know anything, or they wouldn't tell me. It was like she'd been erased from existence. And eventually, I stopped looking. Went to Northwestern, got my MBA, met Victoria at a company mixer, got married because it made sense, because everyone said she was perfect for me, because I was 28 and tired of my mother asking when I'd settle down. I built a good life, a successful life. I just never stopped wondering what happened to Annie. Now I knew, and it was so much worse than anything I'd imagined. I went back the next morning, left the house early, told Victoria I had a breakfast meeting, took the train to Clark and Washington and stood there like an idiot with 2 coffees in my hands, trying to figure out how to approach a woman I hadn't seen in 20 years who was currently living on the street. She was in the same spot, same sleeping bag, different sign. This one said, "Homeless. Anything helps. God bless." Her handwriting. I recognized it from the notes she used to slip into my locker. Same loopy A. Same way she crossed her T's. I walked over slowly, heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. "Excuse me," I said quietly. She didn't look up, just held out a paper cup without raising her head. "I don't want to bother you," I continued. "I just wanted to give you this." I held out one of the coffees. She lifted her head slightly. I saw her eyes, those green eyes I'd memorized 20 years ago, now dull and wary and so tired they made my chest hurt. "I don't do sexual favors," she said flatly. "If that's what you're after, keep walking." "No," I said quickly. "God, no, you look cold. I wanted to give you coffee." She stared at me for a long moment, assessing, deciding if I was safe or just another man with ulterior motives. Finally, she took the coffee. "Thank you," she said, voice hoarse like she didn't use it much. I should have walked away, should have been satisfied that I'd helped in some small way. Instead, I sat down on the concrete next to her. She tensed. What are you doing? Having coffee, I said. On the ground, in $1,000 suit. 1,500 actually, I said, then winced. Sorry, that was. I'm not trying to show off? She took a sip of coffee. Little late for that. I looked at her profile. Really looked. She was thinner than I remembered. Weathered. There were lines around her eyes that shouldn't be there at 38. Her hair, once long and blonde, was matted and gray streaked under the hood. But it was her. Unmistakably her. Annie, I said quietly. She went rigid. The coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. What did you call me? Annie Sullivan, I said, from Riverside High, class of 2006. She turned to look at me fully for the first time. Her eyes widened. The color drained from her face. David? My name. The way she said it, like something breaking and healing at the same time. Yeah, I said, it's me. The coffee cup slipped from her hand. Brown liquid spread across the concrete. No, she whispered. No, you can't. You shouldn't. She scrambled to her feet, grabbing her sleeping bag, shoving it into her garbage bag with shaking hands. Annie, wait. You can't be here, she said, voice rising. You can't see me like this, David. You can't. I don't care, I said, standing up. I've been looking for you for 20 years. Well, you found me. She laughed bitterly, arms spreading wide. Here I am, the girl who was going to Northwestern with you, who was going to change the world. Look at me now, David. Look what I became. People were staring now. Morning commuters slowing down. Phones probably ready to record if this got interesting. Come with me, I said quietly. What? Come with me. Let me buy you breakfast. Let me. I don't need your pity, she spat. It's not pity, I said. It's. Annie, I loved you. I never stopped wondering what happened to you. Please, just an hour. Let me buy you breakfast and then I'll leave you alone if that's what you want. She stared at me. Her hands were still shaking. Then she said, so quietly I almost missed it, I haven't had a real breakfast in 3 years. I took her to a diner 8 blocks away. The kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and a waitress who'd seen everything and didn't blink at Annie's appearance. Annie sat across from me, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee like it was the only thing anchoring her to the world. Order whatever you want, I said, sliding a menu across. She opened it. Her hands started shaking again. David, I mean it, whatever you want. She ordered scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, hash browns, orange juice, and oatmeal. The waitress wrote it down without comment and walked away. Annie wouldn't meet my eyes. You don't have to explain, I said gently. I'm not asking for. I was pregnant, she interrupted. The words hit me like a freight train. What? When I left, she said, staring at her coffee. Senior year. I was pregnant, David. With your baby. The diner dissolved. The sounds, clinking dishes, conversations, the bell over the door, all faded into white noise. I don't understand, I managed. Remember that weekend in March? She asked. Your parents went to Milwaukee. We had the house to ourselves. I remembered. God, I remembered. We'd been so careful, or we thought we had been. I took a test 2 weeks later, she continued. Positive. I was terrified. We were 18. We were supposed to go to Northwestern in the fall. We had plans, David. And I'd ruined everything. You didn't ruin anything, I said. Why didn't you tell me? She finally looked up. Her eyes were shining with tears. Because I told my parents first, she said. Thought they'd help us figure it out. I was so stupid. Annie, they lost their minds, she said. Called me a whore, said I'd shamed the family. They're Catholic, you know, really Catholic. My mom cried for 3 days straight. My dad wouldn't look at me. I felt sick. They said I had 2 choices, she continued. Get an abortion and never see you again, or, her voice cracked, or they'd arrange an adoption, closed adoption. I'd carry the baby, give birth, and they'd take it away. And then I'd be sent to live with my aunt in Iowa to recover. Jesus Christ. I told them I wanted to keep the baby, she whispered, that we'd figure it out, that you'd help me. But they said if I tried, they'd make sure you never knew. They'd move away, change our numbers, disappear. A tear slid down her cheek. So I left, she said. I packed a bag at 3 in the morning and I ran. I thought I was so young, David. I thought I could do it on my own, get a job, raise our baby, stay in Chicago where you could find me eventually. The waitress brought the food. Annie didn't touch it. What happened? I asked, though I wasn't sure I could handle the answer. I stayed with a friend for a month, she said, until her parents found out and kicked me out. I got a job at a gas station, but they fired me when I started showing. I bounced between shelters, slept in my car until it got repossessed. She took a shaky breath. I was 6 months pregnant and living in a tent under the Kennedy Expressway when I went into labor. A month early, all alone, my hands clenched into fists under the table. Someone called 911. I had her at Northwestern Memorial, a girl, 7 pounds, 2 ounces, perfect. Her? I whispered. Annie nodded, tears streaming now. I held her for exactly 10 minutes, she said. They let me hold her for 10 minutes. And then CPS took her because I was homeless and 18 and had no way to care for a baby. They said it was for the best. They said she'd get a good family. She was sobbing now, shoulders shaking. They took our daughter, David. They took her and I never even got to name her. And I tried. I tried so hard to get her back, to get my life together. But I was so young and so broken, and I didn't know how. I slid out of my booth and into hers, pulling her against my chest. She collapsed into me and cried the way she'd probably needed to cry for 20 years. I started drinking to forget, she whispered into my shirt. Then it was drugs. Then I couldn't hold a job, couldn't keep an apartment. And one day I woke up and I'd been homeless for 3 years, and I couldn't remember how to be anything else. I held her tighter. I'm so sorry, I said, voice breaking. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I'm so sorry you went through that alone. It wasn't your fault, she said. You didn't know. It was my baby too, I said fiercely. I should have been there. I should have. You were 18, she said. We were kids. We stayed like that while her breakfast got cold and the diner moved around us, and my entire life rearranged itself into before this moment and after. Finally, Annie pulled back, wiping her face with the napkin I handed her. You're married, she said, looking at my ring. Yeah. Happy? I should have said yes, should have lied, should have protected the comfortable fiction of my life. Instead, I said, I don't know. She almost smiled. Honest, at least. Her name's Victoria. We've been married 8 years, no kids. I paused. She doesn't want them. Annie looked down at her cold eggs. You should go, she said quietly. Back to your life, your wife, your... I'm not leaving you here, I said. David, you think I can just walk away now? Pretend I didn't see you? Go back to my penthouse and my job and act like the mother of my child isn't sleeping on the street? I'm not your responsibility. Yes, you are, I said. You always were. I just didn't know. She looked at me with those green eyes, so full of fear and hope it hurt. What are you saying? I didn't know. I hadn't thought past this moment. I hadn't thought about Victoria or my job or what it would mean. I just knew I couldn't leave her. I'm saying let me help, I said. Let me get you a hotel room, some clean clothes, a shower, and then... And then what? She challenged. You fix me? Make yourself feel better and then go back to your real life? I don't know, I admitted. But I know I can't walk away, so please let me start with this. She stared at me for a long time. Then she nodded. I got Annie a room at a Holiday Inn 3 blocks from the diner. Not the Ritz. Not somewhere that would make her feel like charity. Just a clean room with a bed and a bathroom and a lock on the door. She stood in the doorway, garbage bag in hand, staring at the queen bed like it was something from another planet. There's shampoo in the bathroom, I said. And I'll go get you some clothes. What size? Medium, she said quietly. Used to be a small. Annie, I know I look like hell, David. You don't have to pretend. You look like someone who's been through hell, I corrected. That's different. She turned to look at me. Why are you doing this? Because 20 years ago, I promised to love you forever, I said. I meant it then. And apparently, I still mean it now. Her breath caught. You have a wife? I know. This is insane. I know that too. She shook her head, but I saw the ghost of a smile. Go shower, I said gently. I'll be back in an hour with clothes and food. David? I turned back. Thank you, she whispered. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and left before I did something stupid like kiss her. Duh. I spent $2,000 at Target. Jeans, sweaters, underwear, socks, a winter coat that actually fit, toiletries, a hairbrush. Things I'd never thought about because I'd never had to. My phone buzzed. Victoria. Where are you? You said breakfast meeting would be done by 10. I stared at the text. It was 11:30. I'd missed 3 calls. Something came up. I'll explain tonight. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Fine. I shoved the phone in my pocket and headed back to the hotel. Annie opened the door, wearing the hotel robe, her hair wet and clean for the first time in God knows how long. She looked more like herself, more like the girl I remembered. I brought options, I said, holding up the bags. Wasn't sure what you'd want. She stared at the bags, then at me. How much did you spend? Doesn't matter. David. Annie, I make $30,000 a month, I said. This is nothing. Please, just take it. She bit her lip, then nodded. I set the bags inside and turned to leave to give her privacy. Stay, she said. I froze. Not like that, she said quickly. I haven't had a real conversation in 3 years. And you're the only person who... She stopped. Please, just stay while I change. We can talk through the bathroom door. Okay, I said quietly. She disappeared into the bathroom with the clothes. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands. Tell me about your life, she called from behind the door. The last 20 years. I want to know. Where did I even start? I went to Northwestern like we planned, I said. Business school. Got recruited by Morrison Clarke my senior year. Worked my way up. Made partner at 33. That's amazing, David. Is it? I asked. I work 80-hour weeks. I haven't taken a vacation in 4 years. My wife and I sleep in separate bedrooms because our schedules never line up. Silence from the bathroom. Why did you marry her? Annie asked finally. Because she made sense, I said honestly. She's a corporate lawyer. Ambitious, driven. Everyone said we were perfect together. But you're not happy. I'm comfortable, I said. That's different. The bathroom door opened. Annie stood there in jeans and a soft gray sweater, her wet hair combed back, looking more like herself than the ghost I'd found on the street. Comfortable is just another word for settling, she said quietly. Says the woman who once told me she'd rather die than live a boring life, I said. She almost laughed. Careful what you wish for, right? She sat down on the bed next to me. Not touching, but close enough I could smell the hotel shampoo. What happened after? I couldn't finish. After they took her, Annie was quiet for a long time. I tried to get clean, she said. I really did. Got into a program, stayed sober for 6 months, found a job at a call center, was saving up for a lawyer to help me get her back. What happened? I found out the adoption was finalized, she said, closed, sealed. No contact, no information, like she'd never existed. Her voice broke. I relapsed that night, she whispered, and I've been stuck ever since. Because every time I try to get clean, I remember why I'm doing it. And then I remember she's gone, and it's too much. I took her hand. She didn't pull away. What if we could find her? I asked quietly. Annie looked at me. What? What if we could find our daughter? David, it's a closed adoption. That means I have resources, I interrupted. Lawyers, private investigators, money. What if we tried? Why would you do that? Because she's mine too, I said. And I didn't get to hold her for even 10 minutes. And maybe I can't get back the 20 years we lost. But I can try to find the future. Tears spilled down Annie's cheeks. I don't deserve this, she whispered. Yes, you do, I said fiercely. You were 18 years old, and you tried to do the right thing, and the world punished you for it. You deserve every kindness I can give you. She leaned her forehead against mine. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. I never stopped looking, I said. And then, because I couldn't help it anymore, I kissed her. Soft, tentative, 20 years of longing in that kiss. She kissed me back like she was drowning and I was air. When we finally broke apart, both of us were crying. What do we do now? She asked. I don't know, I admitted. But I know I'm not walking away. My phone buzzed again. Victoria. Reality crashed back in. Annie saw my face, pulled back. You should go, she said. Back to your wife, your life. Annie, I'll be here tomorrow, she said, if you still want to help. But tonight you need to figure out what you really want. She was right and I hated it. I stood up slowly. I'm coming back, I said. I'll believe it when I see it, she said. But there was no bitterness in it, just exhaustion. I left her in that hotel room and went home to my wife. And for the first time in 8 years, I realized I'd been living a lie. Victoria was waiting in the kitchen when I got home at 7 p.m. 9 hours, she said without preamble. Your breakfast meeting was 9 hours. Something came up, I said. What could possibly come up that takes 9 hours without a single phone call? I could lie, should lie. Make up a client emergency or a deal going south. Instead, I said, I found someone I used to know. Someone who needed help. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Someone? A woman, I said, because I was tired of lying. From high school, she's homeless. I got her a hotel room and some clothes. The silence that followed could have cut glass. You spent the day with a homeless woman, Victoria said slowly. Yes. Instead of coming home, instead of calling your wife? Yes. Who is she, David? I looked at my wife. Really looked at her. Designer clothes, perfect makeup even at 7 p.m., not a hair out of place. Beautiful, successful, everything I was supposed to want, and I felt nothing. She's the girl I loved before I met you, I said quietly. Victoria's face went white, then red. Are you fucking kidding me? No. You spent the day with your ex-girlfriend. She has nothing, Victoria. She's living on the street. I couldn't just... Yes, you could, Victoria shouted. You could have called a shelter, given her money, called me and told me where you were, but instead, you disappeared for 9 hours with some woman from your past, and now you're standing in our kitchen telling me you used to love her? I'm sorry. Do you still love her? Victoria interrupted. The question hung between us. I should have said no, should have reassured her, should have fought for my marriage. But I was so tired of lying. I don't know, I said. Victoria laughed bitterly. Well, at least you're honest. She grabbed her purse and keys. Where are you going? To my sister's, she said. Because I'm not staying here while you figure out if you're in love with a homeless woman. Victoria, figure out what you want, David, she said. But don't expect me to wait while you do. She slammed the door behind her. I stood alone in our expensive kitchen in our expensive penthouse and realized I'd just blown up my entire life. And the worst part? I didn't regret it. Bah! I went back to the hotel the next morning with coffee and bagels. Annie opened the door in the same clothes from yesterday, hair brushed, looking more rested than I'd seen her. You came back, she said, like she genuinely hadn't believed I would. I told you I would. She let me in. We sat on the bed, eating bagels in comfortable silence. Finally, she asked, How did it go? With your wife? She left, I said, went to her sister's. Annie closed her eyes. David, I'm not sorry, I interrupted. I should be, but I'm not. You're destroying your life for me. No, I said, I'm finally living it. She looked at me. What does that mean? It means I've spent 20 years building a life that looked good on paper, I said. Big job, nice apartment, beautiful wife, all the things I was supposed to want. And I was miserable, Annie. I've been miserable for 8 years, and I didn't even realize it until I saw you. That's not fair to her, Annie said quietly. I know, I said, but it's true. I took her hand. I called a lawyer this morning, I said, one who specializes in adoption searches. She thinks she can help. Annie's breath caught. David, I know it might not work, I said. I know we might not find her, but we have to try. What if she doesn't want to know us? Annie whispered. What if we find her and she hates us for giving her up? Then at least we'll know she exists, I said. At least we'll know she's okay. Annie was crying again. Why are you doing this? Because 20 years ago we made a person, I said. And she's out there somewhere. And she deserves to know she was wanted, that her mother fought for her, that her father would have been there if he'd known. Annie threw her arms around me and sobbed into my shoulder. I held her and thought about the daughter I'd never met. 20 years old now, maybe in college, maybe working, maybe wondering about the parents who gave her away. I need to get clean, Annie said, pulling back. Really clean. If we're going to do this, if we're going to find her, I can't be like this. I'll help you, I said. Whatever you need. Rehab, she said. 30 days, maybe 90, and a therapist, and probably a support group. Done. David, that's thousands of dollars. I don't care about the money, I said. I care about you. She looked at me with those green eyes, so full of hope and fear. What if I relapse? What if I can't do it? Then we try again, I said simply. As many times as it takes. You really believe in me? I always have, I said. I just lost you for a while. She kissed me then. Soft and sweet and full of promises we were both afraid to make. Okay, she whispered against my lips. Let's find our daughter. 3 months later, Annie sat across from me at a coffee shop in Lincoln Park. 90 days sober, looking healthier than I'd seen her in 20 years. She'd gained weight. The hollows in her cheeks had filled in. Her hair was blonde again, cut to her shoulders. She was wearing clothes that fit and shoes without holes. But more than that, her eyes were clear, focused, present. The lawyer called, I said, sliding my phone across the table. Annie's hand shook as she picked it up. She found her? Annie whispered. She found her. The tears came immediately. Her name is Sarah, I said. Sarah Mitchell. She was adopted by a family in Evanston. She's a junior at DePaul studying elementary education, and my voice cracked. She's been looking for us too. Annie covered her mouth with her hand, sobbing. The family she was adopted by. They told her she was adopted when she was 12. She's been searching for 3 years. The lawyer says, I had to stop and breathe. She says Sarah wants to meet us. When? Annie gasped. This weekend, if we're ready. Annie looked at me, mascara running, crying so hard she could barely breathe. I'm terrified, she whispered. Me too. What if she hates us? What if she doesn't? Annie laughed through her tears. How are you so calm? I'm not, I admitted. I threw up twice this morning. She reached across the table and took my hand. We're going to meet our daughter, she said, like she was testing how the words felt. Yeah, I said, we are. Together, together. She squeezed my hand. What about Victoria? She asked quietly. Your divorce isn't final yet. It will be in 6 weeks, I said. She's marrying her law partner. Apparently, they'd been having an affair for 2 years. David, I'm not upset, I interrupted. Honestly, I think we both just stayed because it was easier than admitting we'd made a mistake. Still nothing, I said. I don't regret any of this, Annie. Not finding you, not helping you, not blowing up my comfortable life. Because for the first time in 20 years, I'm actually living, even though I'm a mess. You're not a mess, I said. You're healing. That's different. She smiled. Really smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her. I love you, David Monroe, she said. I never stopped. I love you too, Annie Sullivan, I said. And this time, I'm not letting you go. Saturday, 2 p.m. We sat in a Starbucks in Wicker Park, both of us vibrating with nerves. The lawyer had arranged everything. Neutral location, public place. Sarah could leave whenever she wanted. No pressure. What if she doesn't show? Annie whispered for the 10th time. She'll show, I said. What if... Annie, I took her hand. Breathe. She nodded, tried, failed. Then the door opened, and a young woman walked in, 20 years old, blonde hair, green eyes, my height. Annie's smile. She looked around the coffee shop, nervous, scanning faces. Our eyes met, and I knew. She knew too. I saw it in the way her breath caught, the way her hand went to her mouth. She walked toward us slowly like she was afraid we'd disappear. Annie stood up. I did too. We all stood there staring at each other. Three strangers who shared blood and loss and 20 years of wondering. Sarah, Annie whispered. Mom? The word came out broken, hopeful. Annie burst into tears. Sarah crossed the distance and threw her arms around her mother, and they both sobbed in the middle of a Starbucks while strangers pretended not to watch. I stood there, tears streaming down my face, watching the two most important women in my life meet for the first time in 20 years. Finally, Sarah pulled back and looked at me. Dad, she said tentatively. The word destroyed me. I'd never been called that before. Never thought I'd hear it. Yeah, I managed. It's me. She hugged me, and I held my daughter, for the first time in her life. I'm sorry, I said into her hair. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I didn't know. I would have been there if I'd known. I know, she said. Mom's lawyer explained everything. I know you didn't leave me on purpose. We pulled apart. The three of us sat down, none of us able to stop crying. I have so many questions, Sarah said. We have time, Annie said. All the time in the world. Sarah smiled through her tears. My parents, my adoptive parents, they're really great. They told me that if I wanted to find you, they'd support me. They're not threatened by this. I'd like to thank them, I said, for raising you, for giving you everything we couldn't. They'd like that, Sarah said. Then hesitantly, can I ask, are you guys together, like together? Annie and I looked at each other. It's complicated, I said. He's getting divorced, Annie clarified. And I'm 90 days sober, and we're taking it slow. But yeah, we're together. Sarah's smile widened. That's really romantic, actually, like devastating and romantic. Annie laughed. That's one way to put it. We talked for 3 hours about Sarah's life, her parents, her major, her boyfriend, the fact that she played soccer in high school just like Annie had, the fact that she was good at math just like me. Every detail felt like a gift. When we finally left the coffee shop, Sarah hugged us both goodbye. Can we do this again? She asked. Like regularly? As often as you want, Annie said. Every week, Sarah said. If that's okay, I want to know you, both of you. We'd like that, I said. We watched her walk away toward the train, our daughter. And I felt something I hadn't felt in 20 years. Hope. 6 months later, Annie and I stood on the sidewalk outside my new apartment. Smaller than the penthouse, but ours. Watching Sarah pull up in her beat-up Honda. She bounded out, holding a pizza box. I brought dinner, she announced. You're early, Annie said, hugging her. I know, but I have news. We went inside. Sarah set the pizza down and pulled out her phone. Okay, so you know how I've been applying for teaching programs? Yeah, I said. I got into the one at Northwestern. She practically bounced. I start student teaching in the fall. Annie threw her arms around her. Sarah, that's amazing. Northwestern, I said, voice thick. That's where your mom and I were supposed to go. Sarah looked between us. I know. That's part of why I applied. Like, I wanted to do the thing you guys were supposed to do together. Is that weird? No, Annie said. It's perfect. We ate pizza. And Sarah told us about her classes and her boyfriend and the apartment she was looking at for next year. And I looked at Annie. 90 days turned into 180, now working part-time at a nonprofit, living in a sober house but visiting my apartment 3 nights a week. And I thought about the life we were building. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't comfortable or easy or what anyone expected, but it was real, and it was ours. 1 year later, "Are you sure about this?" Annie asked, standing in my apartment, our apartment now, in a simple white dress. "I've never been more sure of anything," I said. My divorce had been final for 6 months. Annie had been sober for a year and a half. Sarah was student teaching at an elementary school in Rogers Park. And today, I was marrying the woman I should have married 20 years ago. It was just us. Annie, me, Sarah, and a judge at City Hall. No big wedding, no guests, just the family we'd built from broken pieces. The judge said the words. I slipped a ring on Annie's finger. Simple silver band, all she'd let me buy. And she slipped one on mine. "I love you," I said. I never stopped. "I love you too," she whispered. "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for letting me." We kissed while Sarah took pictures and cried happy tears. Afterward, we went to dinner at the same diner where I'd first bought Annie breakfast. Sarah raised her water glass. "To second chances," she said. "To second chances," Annie and I echoed. We clinked glasses, and I thought about the homeless woman I'd seen on my morning commute one random Tuesday. The woman who'd turned out to be my entire future. The woman I'd loved at 18 and found again at 38. Some people would say I gave up everything for her. My career, my penthouse, my comfortable life. But they'd be wrong. I didn't give up anything. I finally came home. So here's what I want you to do. Look around at the people you pass every day. The ones you've trained yourself not to see. The ones holding cardboard signs or sleeping in doorways or asking for spare change. They're not invisible. They're someone's daughter, someone's first love, someone who had a future before life took it away. And maybe, just maybe, one of them is waiting for someone to recognize them, to remember their name, to give them a second chance. Annie was homeless for 15 years before I found her. 15 years of people walking past without seeing her. Don't let that be you. If this story reminded you that the greatest love stories aren't about finding someone new, they're about recognizing someone you thought you'd lost, drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if you've ever let someone slip away. And hit subscribe, because sometimes the person you've been looking for your whole life is the one you stopped seeing.